Once again, obligations bring me to the doorsteps of those who prefer to be forgotten. The Austrian Alps. A monastery carved deep into the mountain's face like a scar that detracts all sense of hospitality. The stone and archways climbed up towards the clouds, narrow enough to make the sky feel intrusive. Snow gathered in ledges like an afterthought. Bells were absent. Even the wind seemed reluctant to linger. Inside, silence was not observed. It was enforced. The library lay at the monastery's core, enveloped in an ancient silence field so certain that sound failed before it could become intention. Spoken words vanished mid-birth, swallowed by the air itself. Even footsteps were edited, trimmed to intention rather than noise. I moved through it like a blade through felt, controlled, exact. The monks watched me pass, faces calm, hands folded, eyes measuring. They were not my concern. I had been sent for the Conservator. She stood at a long restoration table beneath a tall window, light breaking across stone and vellum, heavy wool cardigan. Sleeves rolled, an apron stiff with stains that were not accidents but records, dragon blood inks, powdered gold leaf, reagents so rare their residue carried weight. She did not look up immediately. When she did, her gaze was not curious, it was diagnostic. As customary in this otherwise derelict mountain, communication required script glass, small, hand-held mirrors that demanded the user translate raw intent into static imagery. It was a tool meant to maintain the silence, but it only served to strip a man of his most practiced weapon, the cadence of his own voice. Mine bloomed first, a glowing calligraphy on glass. My purpose, my provenance, my request. Hers answered before I'd finished.
Denied.
The word appeared with brutal economy. My irritation was immediate and sharp. I had spent nearly all morning ascending the steps of this vertical tomb. I countered with credentials, ministry authority, precedent. My glass filled with immaculate logic, stripped of ornament. Her response did not expand.
The volume is parasitic.
I paused. Parasitic magic was not unfamiliar. I had catalogued it, brewed against it, survived it. I pressed my point, reframing, tightening. She lifted one finger, gestured me closer. She opened the book, only a fraction, a controlled exposure. From her apron she produced a magnifying loupe and held it above the page. Under the glass, the ink moved. Not animated, not enchanted for effect. It was alive. Letters loosened themselves from their sentences, thinning, stretching toward the gutter of the book. Strokes dissolved into tendrils, pressing inward, testing the binding as if it were skin. The page itself seemed to resist, fibers tightening, straining to hold. She pulled a set of special tweezers from her apron pocket and pinched a tiny tendril loose from within the binding. A thread of dark, decrepit magic spun like a wisp of cotton in the breeze before it sank back into its leather folds. The script glass appeared beside the loop.
The silence field starves it. It does not wish to be read.
The understanding hit with surgical clarity. Ink that answered. A book that fed. A vessel masquerading as text. Tom Riddle's diary rose unbidden in my mind, no longer an anomaly but a prototype. The first successful infection. My need sharpened into something colder. She closed the book. Her glass wrote again.
Vessels that consume their users are not evaluated here. They are quarantined.
My glass filled with a demand for cooperation. Her glass remained still, a cold mirror reflecting my own impatience. I did not have time for the etiquette of the silent. I shifted my focus, narrowing my eyes, and let my intent pierce the space between us. I did not seek to shatter her mind, merely to slip behind the glass and pluck the location of the secondary archives from her thoughts. I met a wall. Not a wall. It was an absolute freezing vacuum. It was the most perfect occlumency I had ever encountered. Not an active defense, but a total absence of self. She was as vacant as the silence field surrounding us. Her glass shimmered.
Mind arts are loud, Professor. In this room, they scream. Do not embarrass yourself again.
The silence that followed was not a void. It was a mocking sense of judgment. In this place, even my thoughts were a vulgarity. I felt the heat of a rare, genuine flush creep up my neck. I did not argue. I withdrew. Not towards refuge, recalibration. I stepped away from the table, from the book, from her scrutiny, and turned my attention to the environment itself. I retreated to the monastery's refectory, a kitchen that smelled of cold yeast and damp stone. The monks moved around me like shadows, preparing a meal that required no heat and no conversation. I claimed a corner near a ventilation slit where the alpine wind whistled a low, mournful, flat note. I unpacked my travel kit. Silver vials, dried aconite, a concentrated solution of Lethe River water. As I measured the Lethe water, I found myself examining my own cuticles, half expecting to see a line of black ink burrowing beneath the nail. There was something profoundly sobering in the Conservator's perspective. We are taught that dark magic is a matter of soul and sin, a moral failing of the caster. But standing here, in the thin, honest air of the Alps. It felt more like a pathology. It does not care for your intentions or your greater good. It is a virus that seeks a host, a rot that does not recognize the difference between the parchment it inhabits and the hand that holds it. To treat dark magic as an infection was to admit that one does not master it, one merely survives it. But disease could be controlled. It was possible. The Alps were hostile to precision. Altitude thinned the air. Boiling points betrayed expectation. Ingredients diffused too fast or refused to dissolve at all. My first brew destabilized before setting. The second separated, insolent. The third reacted violently, chemistry rebelling against thin air and colder stone. The Conservator watched from a distance, silent, evaluating. I adjusted. Temperatures recalculated. Timings lengthened. Binders reinforced. A stabilizing charm rewritten for elevation rather than depth. What emerged was not a counter-curse. It was an anesthetic. A paralytic stasis compound that numbed the parasite without killing it, suspended its hunger, quieted its migration. I presented it without flourish. She approached, examined it with the same loupe she had used on the book, as if the potion itself might attempt escape. Her script glass bloomed.
You accounted for the mountain. Very few do.
A pause. The monks relented. The book was handled briefly under controlled stasis, long enough for me to confirm what I had suspected and feared in equal measure. Enough to make sense of questions, enough to formulate many more.
The monks grow their own pears for schnapps. It is quiet. It has medicinal properties.
An invitation disguised as a prescription. How interesting.